I'm super excited to help moderate today and help you find out more about these very talented women. Is anyone here concerned about food waste? Great, good audience. I'm glad you turned up. You're in the right spot. So when I was talking to these women, one thing that struck me was that they all kind of deal with food waste at the different points of the supply chain. I did a manufacturing degree, so I'm fascinated by this concept. Starting with Emilie and then Mette and Saasha, they're going to explain to you how they kind of deal with and solve the problems that exist in each of these pieces in the supply chain. So to kick off, what I'd love to hear from you is a quick introduction about you personally and maybe a short presentation, one slide each, to give the crowd a better understanding of your company. Emilie, would you mind kicking off?
So I'm Emilie, I'm the co-founder of Oddbox, and as you can hear, I'm originally from France, but I've been in the UK for 10 years now. And so I founded Oddbox with my husband 3 years ago. And basically we focus on food waste at farm level. And the way we tackle food waste is by rescuing misshapen and surplus fruit and veg, which are perfectly good quality, but either don't meet supermarket specification or are surplus to requirements. And we bring that to consumers through a veg box model. So we do fruit and veg boxes for homes, but we also do fruit boxes for offices. And because we're able to buy this produce for slightly cheaper, we're also able to sell them to our consumers for cheaper. So it's kind of, it benefits the growers, it benefits the consumers, and it benefits the planet. So kind of 3 wins in one. And in addition, because we obviously didn't want to create any food waste ourselves, anything that we have surplus, we donate to charity, who will then redistribute that to food banks and soup kitchens.
Mette.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Mette Lykke. I've been working with apps for 12 years now, I guess. I founded a company, co-founded back in 2007, called Endomondo, running and fitness app. Hopefully some of you are a little bit familiar with it. And then 3 years ago, I was on a bus and I got to sit next to a woman who showed me Too Good To Go on her app, on her phone. And I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I asked her if I could help with anything. And that's really how I originally got involved in Too Good To Go. Our concept is that we are a marketplace for surplus food. So we help restaurants, supermarkets, bakeries sell the food that they would otherwise throw away. So say you run a bakery, then it's factored into your business because you want to have full shelves all the way up to closing. You basically just throw out the rest when you close your business. And it's factored into your business model. And we help them sell it instead. So short status here. We are in 11 countries and opening up in Austria soon. Poland is soft launched, but not announced yet. I think it will happen next week. And then Austria coming soon. And we have a couple more European countries in the works for this year. Status is that we have 11 million users and 22,000 different partners, stores that we work with across these countries. And the whole mission is to inspire and empower everyone to take action against food waste. So on top of the marketplace, we have a number of movement initiatives, including getting food waste into the educational system and getting kids to get that respect back for the food that we think we lost a little bit.
So it's really interesting because I think the stat you were telling me earlier is that people have a misconception that food waste is all in the supermarkets, but in fact the majority is from farm and in households. So speaking of households.
So I'm Saasha, Celestial One. I grew up in rural America. I was raised by hippies who taught me at a very young age that nothing of value should be left to go to waste. And I spent my childhood rescuing things that other people had thrown out with my mom and taking them home and fixing them up and selling them on, which was sort of necessary. My mom worked really hard to make ends meet. And I'm the kind of person that walks down the street and sees a pair of jeans and thinks, yay. I'm going to take them home, wash them, and give them to my unsuspecting boyfriend or someone. And I sort of rebelled personally by spending 13 years in the corporate world working Morgan Stanley, McKinsey, and then American Express. But when I was on maternity leave in 2013, I started to think about, as one does, the kind of world we were going to leave behind for our children, and I wanted to work on something that was going to make a difference. And I teamed up with my best friend and co-founder, Tessa, and she was raised on a dairy farm, so she would never dream of letting good food go to waste. And we thought we'd take our business skills and put them towards something such as tackling an environmental challenge at scale, leveraging technology, which is OLIO. And I won't describe it too much. I don't know how many here have heard of it, but we are essentially, I'll just let the video roll, if there is one. Basically it.
Cool, thank you. So super interesting. I guess many of us sort of have that secret guilt in the back of our mind of chucking out all the food at the end of the day. So maybe we can all try the OLIO app on Android. Coming to you soon. We're here now. So we all know food waste, well, in case you didn't know, food waste is a major global problem. Nearly a third of the world's food is tossed at a cost of $1 trillion. So Emily, you tackle the farm element.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so basically in terms of kind of overall stats, food waste is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases after the USA and China. So basically in terms of the impact that food waste has, we can solve a big portion of the climate issue by tackling food waste. That's how big food waste is as an issue. And on average, 20 to 40% of all edible produce grown is wasted even before it reaches the supermarket, so at farm level. And either it's for this kind of strict supermarket specification in terms of produce needs to be a certain size, certain color, certain shape, anything which is scarred, which has marks, which is too big or too small, or which there's also a big element of surplus, because as Mette mentioned, everywhere we need to have more supply than demand. Shops need to be full of food all the time, and 12 months in the year, everything needs to be available. So there's a constant overproduction in the system. And so that's kind of that's that portion that we tackle, that 20 to 40% of food which is wasted at farm level.
And I guess, Mette, you're tackling that intermediary of restaurants, and what are some of the restaurants you work with, and how excited were they to hear about your idea?
They are quite happy with it, actually, and I think there are different reasons. So for the stores we work with, including the supermarkets, it's a great CSR project for them. It's a great way to actually save the food. I think if you make it your lifelong job to work in food, you don't like to throw it out. So they get to save the food. Then there's the marketing aspect of it. With 11 million users, there's actually value in the exposure you have. And then they make money on it. And not a lot of CSR projects will generate money at this point. So that's some of the things they're excited about. We work with partners like Carrefour. We have 1,500 Carrefour stores now across 4 countries. Albert Heijn, Jumbo, the biggest retailers in Netherlands, Coop, Migros is the biggest one in Switzerland. So we work with some of the biggest retailers, but it's really those 3 things that they value.
Excellent. And from a user perspective, tell us more about how you kind of grow the awareness and get people to start these communities, because I know that you've got an interesting business model with that idea of community.
Yes, so we have grown pretty much, so the main way that we've grown is through our volunteer program. So we've had 36,000 people around the world volunteer. basically if you download the app and there's not a lot of listings or people near you, you are very strongly prompted to take the initiative to build a food sharing community in your own neighborhood. And once you sign up, we send you down a little volunteering journey and just make it super easy with the playbook and marketing materials so that you can go out and sign up your, the 100 closest neighbors near you, local shops. You can put flyers and, basically spread the word. And so what we've seen is food sharing networks pop up all over the world. We've seen food sharing successfully take place in 49 countries. We've seen neighbors now meet on the doorstep to share food over 500,000 times. So it's just, most people sign up because they hate food waste, but they keep using it because it's just a really fun and simple way to meet someone else in the community. And you get that sort of rush of knowing that you've given something of value to someone else who appreciates it and that it didn't go to waste.
Sounds like a really good concept for inner city London. If you don't know your neighbour, this could be a great way to meet them. Excellent. What are some of I have to come back to you here, Saasha. What are some of the positive impacts you've heard from your users? Because you've got an Android app, and I guess you get user reviews. So what are some of I'm just going to plug Android here, come on. What are some of the positive reviews you're hearing in terms of the impact to real people's lives?
Well, we have a Twitter handle just called OLIO Stories, which is just basically comes from user reviews and unsolicited feedback we get about how we're impacting people's lives. Our mission is to unlock the value of food that's wasted in the home and local community. That's the social value. So we are connecting people who are often socially isolated, people who are feeling maybe a lack of a sense of purpose, et cetera, and also just regular bored everyday people who want to connect with other humans in real life. The nutritional value, we don't talk about this a lot, but we're quietly very proud that a majority or about 45% of the users on the app who request food are living in food poverty, which means they're skipping meals and struggling to feed their families, and they're getting access to fresh food on the app in an anonymous and stigma-free way, which they're proud of, or they're excited about, we're proud of. The environmental impact, obviously, which was alluded to. So there's lots and lots of positive impacts that come from not sending perfectly edible food to landfill so that it can rot and turn into methane.
And I have to ask you, what's the most popular food that gets traded on your business?
Tea, chocolate, bread, apples.
Great. 2 essentials there for me at least.
And vodka.
And vodka.
Yeah.
There you go.
You get a lot of liquor on Sunday mornings.
Nice. There you go. Excellent. And I guess from your perspective, what are some of the positive comments, maybe Mette, that you're seeing from your customers? And
so our users really like this feeling of mission when you save something. It's not like ordering a pizza on Just Eat. It's just different. It feels different. Our biggest segment is young parents, and so we hear from a lot of them that they use it as an occasion to actually educate their kids and talk to them about it. And did you know that this food, and why is that, Mom? And we really like that aspect of it, because that's also where it becomes a movement and it spreads a little bit more. And then we also have users who have some trouble making ends meet. It's not the majority, but for some people it is also a good way of getting quality food at a decent price.
excellent.
And for us, we've got kind of similar stories on parents. So some people send us photos of their children opening the box, and they say it's like Christmas every week. Basically, the kids run to the door to know what's coming in that box. And they kind of open it with their children. They're able to show the different produce. And some people say, yes, my kids didn't want to eat kiwis. Now suddenly they've seen these kiwis, which are like double or triple kiwis that some kids have beaten into potatoes, raw potatoes out of the box. So we get lots of kind of stories. We get photos of cats in the box. So it's yeah. And from the grower perspective, it's also kind of for them. Obviously, they grow for the retailer, but they know that there's a huge portion that they factor in, that they factored that into the price, similarly to kind of any grocery shop. that they will have to throw that away. So it's additional income. And for we went last year. We went to visit. So we visit a lot of our suppliers, but we went to visit an asparagus farm, and the way asparagus is still kind of picked, it's very manual. So it's people bending kind of and cutting with a knife asparagus one by one, and anything which is too thin or too thick, they just leave it on the ground, because it's such kind of labor intensive, and it's so expensive to just kind
harvest.
to harvest.
So, you know, I tried growing asparagus once, and until I read the packet, it said it took like 3 years. You had to spend underground before it actually came up. And I ran a community garden. I was like, oh, bugger that. Go with the bananas. Bananas, bad idea, by the way. Can't stop them once they start growing. So I guess what we're looking here is 3 very unique businesses that cover different segments of the food waste economy, if you will. You've all got different kind of customers, be it farms, restaurants in a way, as well as end users, and then this idea of community. So it'd be really interesting to hear, what are the unique challenges that you've faced building your businesses?
So our sort of existential challenge is that there's $1.2 trillion worth of food that goes to waste every year. Half of it takes place in the home, but we can never get enough supply on the app. So we have so much demand. Listings come on and off so quickly, often they're requested multiple times. But getting people to, for the first time, look at a half a head of broccoli or a half a loaf of bread and think, you know what, I bet someone wants this, and I'm going to take a picture, click submit, and wait for a stranger to come around to my house and collect it. That's a weird thing to do. And I acknowledge that. So that's not like a mainstream consumer behavior yet. So there's a huge process. Once people do it, our retention is insane, and people are really strong advocates, and they evangelize OLIO. But getting people to sort of connect the dots between, I want to have less food waste in my life, and I'm never going to sort of buy less, because unfortunately people do like to have convenience and choice, and people like to then make a last-minute decision to splurge on Too Good To Go or Uber Eats or whatever, and people tend to have more food in their fridge than they're ever going to eat. So getting people to, I guess, to connect the here's what I want to do with here's what I'm actually going to do is the billion-dollar question.
And it is really interesting, because it's all about changing people's mindsets and behaviours, right?
Yeah.
Over to you. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced? I know that we had a chat earlier about.
Yeah. So I think our biggest challenge is probably just the culture. Not that we have any problems with our culture, but making sure we don't get them either. Because we've been growing so fast. When I joined, we were about 15, 20 people, and now we're 300. So it's been a pretty rapid journey where we really try and screen very well and get the right people in with the right DNA, but still work with the culture and work with what does it mean to move from startup to scale up in terms of communication and organization and talent, and just getting people to understand sometimes we need to put someone more experienced on top here, but you still have a role to play, and it's just a lot of people challenges or people tasks. More operationally, it's supply as well. Getting enough stores on. We have, between now and New Year, we need another 17,000 stores on.
So it sounds like very similar challenges around the supply side.
Yeah, it's that takes real work, and that takes a lot of people.
That's good though if you have a marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Like you want
it's a good place to be.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And what about the farming industry? Do you have is it the same issue?
So we've had similar challenges in terms of the supply. It's not that the supply is not there, it's just that for us, these growers kind of grow for the retailer. It's just a side kind of thing, which is more of a hassle to deal with, especially when we were really small. At the start, when I started calling them, I was like, okay, would you be able to send me 2 cases of apples? And they were like, no, first of all, we don't deal in cases. If you want a pallet, then no, we can arrange a pallet. And also, we don't manage the logistics. You please come and get it. So it's just that it's not their priority. So it takes some time to kind of make them understand why we are doing that and the benefit that they can get from it. But also for us, we're a very logistics-heavy business. So we get all the produce into our warehouse. It's about packing the boxes. So we've got different challenges from just being a marketplace because we act as kind of that intermediary. So to scale, we started in South London. Now we cover the whole of London, but it's just kind of, it takes time to expand from a geographic area.
And is there a slight, is there a slight winning formula for the types of food that go together in a box?
We try not to make it too green or too root heavy, though we've had a bit of feedback on one box 2 weeks ago, which was too much of a green detox box. So we try to make it a combination, but yes, there are some people who will say in the winter there's lots of root veg, but it's actually what's grown mostly in the UK and what needs to be rescued. It's just the challenge of reconnecting people with what's grown, how things are grown, and the fact that not everything is available all the time.
And I mean, you said it sounds like a very logistics-heavy business. You have to invest in warehouses, and do you use your own trucks, or have you?
No, so we are working with logistics companies. So that's one thing that we decided early on, that we didn't want to have lots of vans. We've got one van that we use for emergency, but otherwise, no, we rely on other people who can do it better than us.
Fantastic. So recently the government announced it's pushing for a pledge to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030. So 2030 is about, what, 20 years away? 10 years away. That's why I don't work in engineering. I do. So where do you see yourselves in the next decade? Who would like to take this question?
I think it's tricky to kind of know where we'll be in 10 years. So for us, we're in London. The next step is to go nationwide and then expand to mainland Europe. But yes, that's kind of, we see closer than 10 years. Obviously, in terms of food waste, so the government want to halve it by in the next 10 years. It's a big challenge. If we could get there as a society, that would be a big win.
Excellent. 10 years?
We have a publicly stated ambition to get to 1 billion users in 10 years. Now that's 9 years away, because we've been saying that since last year. And not only because that would be amazing, but the world really needs us to. We have 2.5 billion people joining the planet by 2050. We're facing a climate crisis, if anyone hasn't noticed. And we really believe that if we can sort of flip consumption on its head and we can reinvent the consumption model such that you put secondary marketplaces first when people are thinking about what it is that they need. We don't talk about it a lot, but we also have a non-food section of the app, which is incredibly active. Sort of our view is that when before you just run straight to the supermarket or Amazon and to buy something brand new, you first start to think, actually, is there a way to get something, is there something near me right now that needs to be eaten, and can I build my meal around that? Or, is there something within my community, is there someone nearby who has something, and vice versa, what do I have in my house that I don't need? So we want to be, we want to see hundreds of millions of food sharing networks all over the world. And I think we have proven that we've got sort of global mainstream appeal. We've seen the app downloaded in 170 countries, and we've spent hardly a penny, a little bit, on marketing. So I think we're hopeful.
Excellent. Mette?
Yeah.
Yes. Where is your business going to be?
Where are we going to be? So, because food waste is such a global issue, our whole mission is also global. We think it looks like we have a universal solution. It's not the whole solution, and I don't think there will be one solution on food waste. It's going to take hundreds, but we think we have one of them. So our strategy for now is Fortress Europe, and then after that we're going to move to a new continent. And I can't and won't say what that is yet, and we also haven't decided fully.
Fantastic.
But we want to move outside of Europe too.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned at the beginning, Mette, that you met your co-founder on the bus, which I think is fabulous, because I believe, was it this week or last week in the UK, we had talked to someone on the public transport day? last Friday, and I'm like having a chat. So I love having a chat with people on public transport. I'm that person who scares you. How's it been? How's your experience been? I know you've founded a company before this as well, but how's your experience been as a female founder and leader? And has the experience changed between Endomondo and your new business?
It's definitely different here the second time. I'm not sure it's because I'm a woman. I think it's more just that it is my second time. So people probably take it a little bit more seriously early on, and maybe that's more of an advantage now because it was a little bit harder as a woman. In 2007, remember this was before Android, we built our first app for Nokia phones only because there was the smartphone that existed. So this was like, not that many years ago, but in some ways it was a while back. And when we went to the Mobile World Congress, there were only women in in bras and super short skirts. So things have changed in that regard. I think it's taken more seriously, but I think we're also working with something that is so important and people think it's a good idea, so it might be just that.
Excellent. Yeah. Emily?
Yes, I was just mentioning to Mette yesterday I was at a pitch event, and usually it gets pretty mixed, but yesterday out of 40 people pitching, I was the only woman. So there's still kind of a gap in terms of kind of female founders and female in the industry, and maybe probably more in tech than in other industries. And in terms of kind of the other aspects, because my co-founder is a man, then I haven't really faced kind of issues with investors or so, and maybe I haven't kind of really looked at whether there were issues. I think it's not. I don't know if Saasha and Tessa have faced kind of issues, but we haven't really seen that.
Good to hear.
I was a couple weeks ago at Vivatech in France, and one of 30 companies nominated for the next European Unicorn Award, and I was the only female representative, but we did win in our category, so that's good. But I think being a female founder has its pros and its minuses. Less than 1% of VC funding went to female-founded teams last year. There's a big government report on that, so there's obviously some, it's not working out the way necessarily it should be. I think a lot of that has to do because we, 2/3 of our audience, if not 3/4 for OLIO of our users are female, and when we're pitching to male investors, I'll have to admit there's less of a connection with what it is that we are describing. We have a really high success rate with female sort of venture capitalists, but there's just fewer of them. So I don't think there's going to be an improvement in sort of funding into female-founded teams until there's an improvement in the diversity at the investor level. On the other hand, we're sort of two moms on a mission to save the planet, which means we get a lot of free press, if I'm honest, a lot of free press. So the press have been really, really receptive, and I think it means in some ways that we're able to, connect, I guess, with our users in a way that may be easier for
it sounds authentic and gives you integrity, right?
Yeah.
This is something which many companies don't have.
Pros and
That's
cons.
great. Cool. So I'd like to open questions up to the audience now.
Thank you so much for coming today. I have so many questions in terms of how do you collaborate? How do you treat your customers? What do you do when they leave you? Things like that. But I think one that is important that could resonate with also us as customers, B2C customers here, would be how do you deal with the rise of new apps, new companies that are entering your areas? A few years ago, there would be maybe one of you in the stage, right? Now you're free, you address different customers in different marketplaces, but you see more and more apps rising around food waste. And how do you feel their presence on the market? Do you feel like there is space for everyone just yet, or do you start feeling the competition?
From my point of view, I think there's not yet enough players in the food waste space. So there's still a lot of space for more people because it's such a huge issue that even basically the advantage of kind of spreading the word and people becoming more aware of the issue outweighs other people coming and competing.
Yeah, and we think there's going to be a lot of different apps doing different things. One will keep track of your fridge, one will tell you if that's what you have, these are the recipes and what you could make with it. And they work perfectly side by side with our model. I think our specific model, I think for that to really work, you need scale. So my take is that there will probably be one big player and maybe some smaller ones, but I don't think there will be 5 big ones in this space.
We don't yet have a direct competitor. We remain the world's only neighbor-to-neighbor food sharing app. We have people reach out all the time to say, I was just about to build that. And usually what we do is we try and figure out what their motivation was, and usually it's just because they want the solution to exist, and so we bring them on as a super volunteer and empower them, sort of short circuit the let me build my own app. By the way, do you know how hard it is to build a network for, perishable food at the hyperlocal level?
24 hours and you're going in.
And then we bring them on, and then we absorb them. We haven't quite figured out our long-term monetization strategy. Everything's for free. The app is for free. We'll have to figure it out when we're sort of at scale more, and we still view ourselves as subscale. But no, we don't.
We actually started out as a bunch of competitors. So it was entrepreneurs from different countries in Europe that wanted to do this. They realized the company already existed in Denmark, and they wrote the founding team and said, can we partner, or should I go myself? And the founders partnered up with them in 3 or 4 or 5 countries. And then later on, we've all teamed up and we've acquired them back, and they are shareholders in a holding company. And I think it works better when we're one team and we don't operate in silos, but it actually came about as a kind of competitors.
So obviously, with these apps taking off and more apps kind of joining the marketplace, one of the things you mentioned was that about the adoption of kind of users using this app. So obviously, like the goal is that at one point, kind of usage reaches the level where it reaches sort of a tipping point, and then the rest of the population starts using it. What do you reckon is important for that point to basically happen? Like, what do you see as the next steps in the next decade or so for that to happen, or hopefully less time in a decade?
I think we've sort of maxed out on early adopters and late early adopters, whatever they're called. And we've got a really active, so 25% of our signups are in London, but 50% of our transactions are in London, and we see the network effects accelerating really quickly. And so the next thing we're going to do is spend money on above-the-line advertising, so that we basically normalize this weird behavior I'm talking about, and make it, make it seem like everyone says to me, oh, I've been meaning to use OLIO forever. And we're sort of at that point now where we have quite a lot of recognition and awareness, people sort of recognizing it's a problem. There's an intent, and we need to sort of crystallize the problem and mobilize the mainstream. And we're going to do that through some spend.
So I guess the aspect that I forgot to mention was particularly kind of that culture around which you mentioned that, if you want something new, you'll go on Amazon and buy it. So how do you kind of break that culture or change that mindset in people that the first thing that they do is actually, how can we buy food or, take food that's actually going to waste, or, buy odd-shaped fruit, or, yeah.
I don't have a short, pithy answer to that question. I really don't. I mean, that is changing mainstream consumer behavior is hard, notoriously, but there are so many examples of when it's been done, whether you're looking at recycling or smoking indoors or meeting a stranger on a dating app. Like, that wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. It's a combination, if you look at like organizational behavior change models, of role modeling, having the infrastructure in place, incentivizing properly, and having the sort of, the why now, why the hell right now. And if anyone's paying attention to Extinction Rebellion and the climate, Parliament having declared a climate emergency, things are really, the momentum and attention, and also like the celebrities who are getting involved now, things are really starting to, I think, whatever this means.
Snowball.
Come together.
Yeah.
Snowball. Come together.
But I think it's also about making it cool. So
Yes.
you don't feel
Yes.
stigmatized, but you are actually doing something good and you feel good about it.
Yeah.
I think you all alluded to, there's going to be hundreds of different solutions, or these are just facets of them. What would be the one thing that you still see as a gap, aside from like changing culture and just making humans better? Like, what is one space in the system that you really wish someone would tackle?
For me, it's not like one thing in the system, it's the whole mindset. It's the way we think about food and the way we don't think about it as a valuable resource. It's that mindset we would like to change. So we use the marketplace as a stepping stone to hopefully do that.
I think it's just that the food system has changed so much. If you think about 50 years ago, people would queue to get access to food. Now everything is available all the time. So there's kind of, people don't realize what it takes in terms of resources to grow that food. And I think we are starting to kind of see more and more on that, more kind of data on. So because I think it's that people go to the supermarket, they see the food. Food is so cheap as well in the UK compared to other countries that obviously people don't place value on something which is so cheap.
I would say that a gap in the market would be for unpackaged produce. I know you guys do your box, but unpackaged produce that you can buy in the quantity that you want without paying triple the price. Like I don't know if anyone's watching Hugh's War on Waste right now, the plastic one, but basically they did like a price shop between loose fruit and veg and packaged fruit and veg, and it's double or triple.
Yeah.
And you can't ask even me, that's it's 10 pounds or it's 25 pounds to simply buy the amount that you need without plastic. And I think there's a huge gap in the market there, because it's got to surely be, anyway, from an opportunity perspective. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies. It's been fantastic to have you here and learn more about your business and more insights into the fascinating elements in this economy which you all serve a solution for. And I know that you'll get downloads from all these people, and there'll be more goodness coming your way, I'm sure, in terms of Play Store featuring. But thank you very much for coming as well, everyone, asking fantastic questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.